Hi, I'm Jamie Quinn. Welcome to One on One. Today's episode is all about finding your voice. I'll be sitting down with a country girl who's selling big city records. She's played at most major and minor venues in the city, throughout Canada, and graced stages around the world. And she says no matter how big she gets, she'll never forget her roots. Stay with us and hear more about singer-songwriter Carol McCartney. Making it in the music business isn't always about getting a break. As singer-songwriter Carol McCartney tells me, it's often about hard work, determination, and making it happen. Carol's joining us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jamie.
Now, I know you just released your first album, Let the Girl Drive.
Yeah.
You've been working in the music industry for years. Thinking back, can you remember your first paid gig?
I'd gone to Sheridan College, and when I sort of had an early graduation from Sheridan College, because I auditioned for a show band, which was the thing at the time. That was in the 80s, and so I joined the show band called Skylark, and we mostly played around, Ontario, Toronto. It wasn't too bad, and then I guess we did a very short stint of Northern Ontario, and at that point I think I left the band.
And do you remember how much you got paid for the first gig?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think it was about $77 a week or something like that.
Okay.
And that would have been for 6 nights.
Oh, well, that's not bad. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, sure.
Now, I know that before you ever got paid and took up singing professionally, you sang at a church, which is where a lot of singers get their
start. Sure, yeah. Sang in the church choir for, I guess, 8 or 9 years. My mom was in the choir as well. And that was fun. And I never got any solos. I mean, I think I was pretty shy as a kid. So I was happy to sing in the choir and be one of the group.
And while you were in school, I know you also sort of got your big break in the high school play. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's right. Then in high school, I got Brave. They only did one musical the whole time I was in high school, unfortunately. But it was a neat show called The Me Nobody Knows, which no one's probably ever heard of. But it was a pop kind of musical. And lo and behold, I auditioned and I got the lead in it. And so that was the first time that I really discovered that, wow, I have some talent. I could do this.
I know a lot of young children when they're growing up, and I have to say I was one of them, they want to grow up and be a singer or be a rock star. And I guess that wasn't how it worked for you.
No, not really. I mean, I love to sing, but my father's an accountant, and so maybe I have a very practical side to me, and I just never thought, it never had occurred to me that you could do this for a living until I was in high school and I did this play, and then after that I was invited to sing with the stage band, and it was actually a guidance counselor who said to me, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was finishing grade 13 and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and he said, well, what are you thinking about? And I said, well, I'm thinking about being a teacher. And he said, oh, don't be a teacher, they'll send you up to Timbuktu, and why don't you go into performance? And I thought, performance? I didn't even, what do you mean? Well, he said, you're great in this play and you have a great voice, so what about, going to York University or Sheridan College or Humber College? So that was the first time I ever thought about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, yeah, why not?
And do you think that going to school and studying music has helped you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had never had any vocal training at all up to that point. I knew nothing about anything, So Sheridan was great. It taught me a lot. And at the time, and I still would stand by this today, I mean, what I wanted to be was, I wanted to be a well-rounded performer. A performer that was, the singing thing was obviously going to be my forte, but I was also interested in acting and movement. They talked me into dancing. I mean, I'm never going to be a dancer, but movement, and being able to do a one-woman show. I think I saw Ann Gillian at the Imperial Room, and I also saw Rita Moreno and a few other people, and I think that made me, I thought to myself, this is something I'd like to do. I'd like to be able to put on a one-woman show that would be interesting, not only with just song, but with everything, you know.
And over the years, your repertoire has become very versatile. I know your album is contemporary country, but when you started off in the business, you were looking somewhere else, towards more of the pop aspect. Am I correct?
Well, okay, the show band was obviously pop music at the time, which was, you know, not that different than it is today, I guess. And but then when I left the show band, I auditioned to sing in a room called the Cloud Room, which was at the Skyline Hotel, and I got that job. But that was with a small trio. So I had learned a lot of jazz standards in school as well, and so I used those in that instance, and from there discovered a great love of jazz, and so continued to do that kind of work. I also worked at the Prince Hotel for, I think I was at the Prince Hotel on and off for 2 or 3 years with the Jack Lander Trio, and where else? And then I played at the Old Mill with Bobby Harriet's big band. It was a 10-piece band for about 3 years.
And did you have any favorites?
Lately, I've been doing some work with Bob Bruff and Stan Foman and their quartet, and I've really been enjoying that. We just did a night at the Montreal Bistro, and we had a great time. And we're doing some original tunes, which I'm really fascinated. I'm really interested in original music, you know, something that's brand new. And so we did some Bob Bruff tunes and some Stan Foman tunes, and a very talented lyricist in town, Sonia Tran, has written the lyrics for both of these, or I guess we did about 4 songs. And that was a lot of fun, something brand new. It was great.
Let's talk a little bit about your upbringing. I've heard people say you're a country girl who grew up in Weston. So you've had a small town upbringing, and your dad was a country fan himself.
Yes, he was. That's where I first got interested in country music. My dad was an accountant, but he also was a DJ. He moonlighted as a DJ. And he loved Patsy Cline and Johnny Cash, and so he played a mishmash of music for people, but he would set up, and at the time it was these old speakers, you know, on this wheel, what do they call that when you have the two, reel-to-reel, reel-to-reel at that time. So, you know, his equipment was pretty old even then, but so he would set it up in the living room in the morning that he had a gig, and he'd play all this stuff, and, you know, loud, and kind of rehearse what he was going to do for the evening. So, and he also loved Andy Williams, so I would hear a lot of Andy Williams. And Jeanette Renaud. He said he would put on recordings of Jeanette Renaud, and he would say, "You can hear her breathing in this. You can hear her breathing in this." But anyway, so I guess between my mom and singing in the choir, and my dad and his DJing, I developed a pretty early love of music and of a real cross-section.
Now, as a small town girl, you seem to be playing at bigger stages these days. Was it the bright lights that attracted you?
You know, I mean, if we're going to talk about my very first, someone that I idolized at a young age, and this is going to sound unusual too, but it would have been Diana Ross.
Really?
So I think the whole glamour, you know, she did the big boas and all that stuff, and she was a great singer. I think that's what first attracted me. I mean, I don't think I really visualized myself doing it at that time, but shortly after that, I started to think about it, yeah, for sure.
Performers and artists describe that feeling of being on stage, and anyone who hasn't done it would find it hard to articulate. What is that feeling for you?
It's a great feeling. Well, it can be a great feeling and it can be a bad feeling. If things are not going well, you feel like you want to shoot yourself. But if things are going well, and you know, at this point, most of the time, things are going well for me, thank goodness. It's a feeling, it's almost a spiritual feeling sometimes. You feel so connected to the audience, and you're all sort of in this music thing together. It's a kind of a, I hope this doesn't sound too airy-fairy, but you at times feel sort of out of body.
Really?
Feeling, yeah, sometimes.
And that can be addictive?
Oh yeah, it's hugely addictive, yeah. It is, for sure.
Now, how busy do you stay these days performing on stage?
Well, quite busy, fortunately. I just opened for Doc Walker at a small theater in Northern Ontario, and that was a lot of fun. And did another show with Beverly Mahood not too long ago. And of course the Waterfront Festival in Mississauga, that was a lot of fun. We had a nice sunny day. I've done it other years where it hasn't been so sunny, but it's an outdoor venue, so that was really great. Yeah, lots of fun.
Now, I know that throughout your career, you're someone who's an artist who never had to work part-time doing something else, as in waiting tables or that sort of thing while you're waiting to get your career off the ground. You've been lucky enough to work in the business from the start.
Yeah, that's true. I have been very lucky. I've never had another job, which is great. But as a result, I've done a real varied, I've had a very varied career, you know, a diversified career. I think you have to, especially up here in Canada, I've heard a lot of comedians say this kind of thing, that, you know, they started off in comedy and then went into acting. And so I think as a Canadian artist, you do learn to diversify just in order to survive, basically.
And for example, what are some of the roles you've played?
Yeah, well, I've been lucky enough to do some musical theater, which was something that I did want to do at one point. I was the lead in Grease here at Stage West, which was a lot of fun because I had done that in college as well. I had played the same role in college like 13 years prior to that, so I got to correct all my mistakes, which you don't usually get the opportunity to do that. And then what other shows have I done? Oh, The Odd Couple. I did a couple of straight plays at Harbourfront, Port Credit Harborside Theatre. Yeah, that's it, Port Credit Harborside Theatre. I played Cecily in The Odd Couple, and I was in a Norm Foster play, famous, great Canadian playwright, one of his plays, as well as, what other musicals? Oh, I was in The Baker's Wife at Harbourfront Theatre, downtown Toronto. And I played the lead in that. I played the baker's wife.
So quite a bit of theater, but
yeah.
Also some corporate events and weddings.
Oh yeah, lots of corporate events, lots of weddings, private parties in people's homes, backyards with tents, you name it, I've done it. And I even did some singing telegrams. 1,000 years ago, I did some singing telegrams. Not for very long. I only did a handful of them. I just found it too strange. We were supposed to burst into whatever it was, and often it would be like some kind of corporate boardroom, and you were supposed to burst in and break into this song, and that was just too weird for me. So I only did a few of those.
Now, did you do that at a point in your life when you're just trying to make ends meet?
Yeah, I was really young. I mean, I think I was just out of college, and that was just something else that came up, and somebody gave my name to someone else, and that's a lot of how the business works. You know, it's a lot of connecting, and you know, you meet somebody and they say recommend you for this, and you do that, and then they recommend you for another gig, and so you do that, and you know, studio work. Done lots of studio work,
in any
business, jingles,
and in any business, you sort of have to do some jobs before you get to do the other jobs.
Oh, sure, yeah. And work begets work. You know, if you say no to everything, then you're going to have a much tougher time breaking in and getting to the good stuff.
Was there ever a job you had to do that you didn't want to do? Anything that...
Well, yeah, the singing telegrams. I mean, I think the first one I really didn't know what I was in for, and after that I thought, oh wow, what am I doing?
They're not paying me enough,
but,
huh?
Yeah, they're not paying me enough to do this.
Now, you did say it can be a bit of a hard business, and I think a lot of artists find that in music. And have there been any lessons you've learned that you could pass along?
You learn that you are, you know, in this business, you're as good as your last performance. And I know that sounds daunting. So if you go and you do a show and you're brilliant, then you're brilliant until you do a show where you're not so brilliant. So you have to do everything in your power to keep yourself as consistently good as possible. For a singer, that means you have to treat yourself like you're an athlete and you're always running a marathon, i.e. you can't drink a lot of alcohol, you definitely can't do drugs. You can't stay up all night and party and yell over loud music and expect that the next day when you show up for your job with a band that you're going to sound good. I mean, it's just, so, you know, we singers live a very quiet life.
Except when you're
we
singing.
do. Yeah, except when you're singing. But the rest of the time, you're drinking water, you're exercising, you're rehearsing new material, you're using your instrument, you're singing your warm-up exercises to keep everything in shape.
How do you keep up with that? What the labels are looking for? What the trend is
Well, I don't
this
care.
year?
I mean, I don't care. I just do what I want to do. I did this country crossover record, which is what I wanted to do, and it's out and it's in stores. It's distributed by EMI, and I've had 3 national hits, across the country. 1 video played on CMT. So I'm really happy with that. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get some of my original work out there, and I did. I co-wrote all the songs, and
Let's talk about country crossover. What kind of sound are we talking about?
well, country crossover is where real grassroots country crosses with a much more of a pop genre than ever was allowed. I mean, up until 7 or 8 years ago. It's kind of old news now, but
Okay.
7 or 8 years ago it was very cutting edge, and you saw a big trend going away from very traditional sounding country into this more of a rock-based sound, which is a lot like what Doc Walker is doing. It's a very sort of Eagle-esque, Don Henley kind of rock meets country.
Let's talk about the storytelling in the country songs, because really the lyrics play a very, very important
Oh yeah, huge.
in that
huge.
genre. So what inspires you and what do you write about?
I write about things that hit me, things that occur to me. I usually start off with some kind of a hook line that encompasses an idea.
Well, let's talk about the single on the album, Let the Girl Drive.
Okay.
And that would be your hook line, wouldn't it?
Oh sure, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's a song that's about freedom and liberation and just going with a moment and being spontaneous.
And you write at home often as well.
Sure, yeah.
Tell me
yeah.
about that process.
Well, same kind of thing, just finding a comfortable spot and a few moments of quiet, because I do have a 9-year-old son, so that sometimes is tricky. But when he's in school, I have lots of time during the day. And yeah, so just sitting at home and working on a tune, trying to come up with better lyrics, coming up with a great hook line.
Are you always working on something?
Well, lately I haven't. Lately this summer I've taken a bit of a break, and I've just been enjoying singing and performing. But I'm starting to get that itch and starting to feel like I want to write something. And I actually think that I'm going to delve into writing, trying to do some writing in the jazz world. I'm going to try and write some jazz tunes, I think.
And we talked about this earlier. Jazz, I know you steered away from that, and you
Yes.
said because the classics do it so well. You weren't sure if you...
Yeah, I wanted to do, I knew I wanted to do original tunes. I didn't want to do covers. I wanted to do all original music, which is what I did. And so the thought of doing a jazz record, trying to write jazz classics, it was just too daunting.
You're 32 years old, just released your first album. Quite an accomplishment, I think, at any age. What exactly goes into putting together a record?
Well, a lot goes into putting a record together. I started out by looking for a great producer, because I know how important that is. I mean, a record's nothing without a great producer. You can have great songs and be a great singer, but without someone to help you identify your sound, etc., you're nowhere. So I decided that I would see a few people and find out who was willing to work with me. So I did that, and I ended up, my first choice had always been to work with a great producer in Kitchener named Rick Hutt. And so it took a while to get a chance to see him. I think I sent him a package first of all, and then I didn't hear anything, and I thought, oh, well, maybe he's just too busy and he's too big. But eventually I got up the gumption to phone him at his studio, which I also had the number of the studio I had tracked down. And I called him, and lo and behold, it was him on the phone. I called pretty early in the morning, and I got him. So he said, "Oh yeah, I got your package, and I like some of your songs are good, and so I think, you know, you should come out here and we should get together and talk about what it is you want to do." So we did that. Anyway, to make a long story short, he decided that he'd work with me, and so I wrote I bet I wrote 30 songs or so, at least 30 songs. And from those 30 songs, we chose 10 songs. Now, in the meantime, I had some funding from some private corporations and things, and I had some of my own money in there too, because I didn't feel like I could ask someone else to put money in unless I was. But from there, we had to apply to Factor to round out the number so that we had enough money to do a really decent album.
And what's Factor?
Factor is the body that you apply to for funding. It's specifically for help aiding Canadians in creating music for radio.
Okay.
So we applied to Factor, and we got the maximum amount of money the very first time we applied, which is kind of like winning the lottery. I remember when I got the phone call, I think I cried, because I thought, you know, this could take a long time. Rick had said to me, you know, don't panic, we're going to apply many times. Sometimes it takes, you know, you have to apply 3 or 4 times before you actually get this loan. Because it's a big process. You have to submit a demo of 3 tunes, and then biomaterial and so on. And they then play these tunes for a number of juries right across the country, who choose a very small number from a very large number of submissions. So we were really lucky to get it the first time.
Wow.
So when that happened, then we definitely knew we had a project that was underway.
And I guess putting together your own website as well, something that will help get that word out there.
Oh, sure, yeah. The web is a great tool nowadays. My husband arranged all of that for me. He put together, he's kind of the computer whiz in the family, so he takes care of the website, which is great.
And you also have a son, you mentioned?
Yeah, I have a little boy named Liam, and he's 9 years old. Yeah, great kid.
Now, what is it like for him going to school? And my mommy's a singer.
Well, I think it's he doesn't feel unusual about it. I mean, when I finished the record, he came to me one day and said, I want to take the record to school. They were doing kind of a show and tell thing, and I thought that was really neat. So he took the record to school, and they played a couple of tunes, and so that was a lot of fun. But I've yet to sing there. I should really put something together and sing at one of their assemblies or something.
Or fundraisers.
Yeah, I should.
Now, does he have any aspirations to become a singer as well, or a performer?
Yeah, I think he does. He always says, you know, I'm a great singer. I know I'm a great singer. And he does have a great voice. He really does, because his father's a good singer as well.
And what happens when you're not being a mom, a wife, and you're not on stage? What do you do to relax?
Well, we're fortunate enough. We have a little place up north in Muskoka, near Bracebridge, and we go up to the cottage. That's our kind of rancho relaxo place.
And I know you're also a lover of travel. And
yeah. When we can, we travel.
You recently took a trip to Africa.
Yes, I've been there 3 times. I've been so lucky. I've been there 3 times, and it's my favorite place in the world. It's fantastic. It's so beautiful and rugged and pristine. I think it's one of the last places in the world where you can go and feel like you're in the wild.
Any advice for performers who have to make that decision? Do I go independent? Do I sign with a label?
Well, I mean, I think if you can sign with a label, you sign with a label, but, you know, there's not a whole lot of signings going on.
Okay.
So you do what you can and see people and get your music out there and go from there. But just, you know, enjoy it. Enjoy what you're doing. That's what I'd say. Don't get all hung up in, you know, I got to be the next Shania Twain. Just enjoy your music.
Any regrets?
I did a concert at the Living Arts Center with Peter Appleyard and his big band, 18-piece band, And he had asked me to do a few of those not so long ago, and I didn't do them because I was busy doing other things, and I kind of regret that. I sort of realize now that was a really good opportunity, and because I think I was sort of given that opportunity to work with Peter Appleyard at a very young age, I didn't realize what a great opportunity it was until now, years later. I think to myself, that's a great opportunity. Why didn't I do those gigs that he called me for? You know, but I'm happy that I just did a big concert with him at the Living Arts Center, and it was a lot of fun.
I think your whole life is an example of almost dispelling the myth that in the music business you need to get a break. In your case, you made it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think you do need breaks along the way. Like I had several people who were very, very good to me that passed my name along, and so then that opened up another door. Just by doing the work, you get to know the musicians, and you never know what will come from those things.
So what can we expect from you next?
Well, I think I'm going to do a jazz record. I think I'm going to do a jazz record.
And when can we expect to see that on store shelves?
Oh, 2-3 years probably.
Okay. Have you already started writing some of those songs?
I haven't, but I'm about to. I'm about to start, and I've gotten my hands on a few great originals written by other people. But I think that's where I'm going to go. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do.
We'll definitely keep our eyes open for it.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you for being here. That wraps up another episode of One on One. I've been sitting with singer-songwriter Carol McCartney. See you next time.